Hey everybody, Fishman here. Welcome to another video. This is Fisherman Blog number 26, and I'd like to start out today's video by actually making some comments on last Friday's video. Now, as I said in that video, as I was doing the experiments and getting ready to post it and everything, I was concerned that there are people out there who have some very hardcore ideas about how maintenance should be done, and I shouldn't have been worried. I mean, I read through the comments. I really like them all, and I will be getting to answering them shortly. And the neat thing about it is it actually is going to lead to another line of experiments. Now, this aquarium here, this is one of the three that I was doing the experiments on. And as you can see, the plants, the fish, the water, everything's all nice and clear and clean and healthy. And there were no ill effects from that entire fish experiment run. So that's also an important thing to keep an eye on, long term when you're doing these sorts of things. So the new experiment is going to come from a comment, and it's going to run differently. I'm going to take an aquarium, not this one, but one of them, and I'm going to completely clean it out. I am actually going to get in there and sterilize it. I'm going to remove all the plants, of course, and fish and the filters. Everything's going to come out. I'm going to clean it out completely, make sure there isn't anything excessive. Obviously, you can't get rid of all the bacteria, but I am going to get rid of most of it. And then fill it up with fresh water. I'll probably run an air stone and let that percolate for a little bit. And then the new experiment is going to involve pretty much the reverse of everything else that I've done so far for this sort of thing. I found a source for ammonium chloride, which is the chloride salt of ammonia. And I'm going to make up some standard solutions for it. And I'm going to dose the given aquarium with a specific amount of it. And then I'm going to test that with the test kit, and then I'm going to drop in an aged filter like this one here. And I'm going to wait to see how I'm going to test it on regular intervals and see how long it takes for that filter to remove the ammonia. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to actually do a slightly more expanded version of this. I'm actually going to use a fully aged underground filter as well and drop that in there. And then I'm going to go through the cleaning processes for this. I am going to do each of the same things I did in the last experiment. I'm going to clean them, drop them in, see how long it takes to get rid of the ammonia, and I'm going to go through all of them that way and see if there's any kind of a difference. There may actually end up being a bit, but again, we'll never know until I do it. And because this kind of experiment does take a while, it may actually be a while before I get to posting this. So please be patient, but I will get to that. And it should give you some very interesting and definitive ideas on quality of filters and that sort of stuff. And if you have comments on it, please let me know below, and ideas and all that sort of stuff as well. So let's get on to the video. I thought I'd start off with this. This is kind of a funny little scenario going on between two mollies. A little bit of aggression, a little bit of mating. It was interesting to see. This kind of behavior you usually see with like African cichlids, that sort of stuff, and they tend to test each other's strength out. But these guys, well, they went at it for quite a while here, and hopefully I get some pregnant female out of this, but most likely that's already happened anyway. So anyway, I thought I'd show that to you as kind of an interesting little interaction between the two of them. So anyway, I thought I'd put that in there. This is something else I saw kind of interesting. This is a piece of red Luigia, and it is growing outside the high humidity planter filter. But the neat thing about it is the leaves are nice and green. There is no sign of their drying out or anything. And actually there are indications that it is going to start growing more as well. So I'm not going to prune that at all. I'm going to let that grow, and we'll see how that ends up. I mean, it is doing what it should be doing, but it's growing in a low humidity environment, which is kind of interesting. This is the 5-stage airlift, and as you can see, I have not cleaned it at all. It actually is getting to the point now where I have to start doing a little bit of maintenance on it, so I thought I'd put that in here. And the maintenance is not so much on any of the tubes. As you can see, I haven't cleaned them out at all. I did clean the splash guard in the front just so you can see into the filter. The maintenance I have to do is involving the rigid airline tubings. They are getting to the point where they're getting a little bit of buildup in them, so I had to go in and take a piece of wire and run it through the pipes just to get rid of that buildup so I can actually get better flow again, because it was slowing down a little bit. So that was kind of important to do. Now this here is, as you can see, some Java fern, and it's really, really well attached to some lava rock. I had to finally do a bit of maintenance on one of the high humidity planters, because you can see the few leaves on the right there are getting a little bit, well, they're getting cramped. You can see it there near the top on the left, on the right still. And I had to prune out the center bit because I was getting a little bit of lack of flow in there, so I had to prune that back. This is the white vinegar eel culture, and I had almost given up on all this, but actually it is starting to show more in the sense of the population in there. I'm going to show you the next one as well. And I'm thinking what I might do is subdivide these and start 2 more with white vinegar. And then I'm going to start trying to harvest from them and see how that all works out again. Give it another chance to prove itself and see if it does produce enough of the vinegar eels to make it worthwhile. And the reason why I'm doing this is I did get a comment or two on the last couple of times I put this up that the apple cider vinegar is not really available easily or cheaply in a lot of places. So white vinegar is pretty much everywhere. So there you go. And as always, I like to finish off the Sunday vlog by going over these tanks, the 3 that have the different plant growth substrates in them, and seeing how they've changed. This is the gravel one, and if you remember from last week, it was starting to have an algal bloom, and as you can see, decided to stabilize, so that is no longer an issue. Believe it or not, I was actually kind of disappointed. I was hoping I was going to go into a full-blown algae bloom and then see how it came back out of it. But apparently it stabilized way early into it, actually earlier than I would actually expect it to. I was expecting it a little bit darker, if nothing else. But it's fine now, and the fish are all healthy, and as you can see, there's even more babies in there. Everybody's growing well, and there's nothing really unusual about this tank. It's doing exactly what I would expect, except of course a slightly shorter algal bloom. The next tank though, there are some actually interesting things about this particular one. Now the plants are growing really well, as you can see, better than the gravel, and as you can see there's lots of roots and everything, and the Vallisneria is doing really nicely. And everything else is perfectly fine, and they're having babies, except one thing I noticed in this tank that's different than the other 2 tanks, and that is I'm getting a little bit of, well, the fish health is not quite where I want it to be. Not on all the fish, just on 2. Now one is showing a little bit of tail rot, which is unusual, but I expect it's from the lower pH because of all the tannins that are in the water. And another one seems to have a bit of a digestive issue. Now that couldn't be that, well, it could be just simply because it's an individual fish and it's, you know, just luck of the draw. But again, I'm not going to treat them. I'm going to let this run its course, and we'll see how that all goes. I'm actually going to put a clip up here probably at the end of the video just showing a bit of a close-up of the 2 of them, and we'll see what you guys think of that. Now this is the commercial plant growth substrate, and it is actually starting to grow a bit better than it was last week, and I suspect it'll probably at some point outcompete the other 2. But for the moment, everything's pretty much status quo here. Again, they're having more babies, which is good because that way they're all having babies. And everything else in this is all pretty much the same. There's nothing special to report about this particular one, except I don't think I've mentioned it so far, but I had some troubles with the snails initially. They weren't actually thriving. I actually ended up with a bit of a graveyard of them. But since I've added some back in, and they're doing fine now. So that's pretty much the end of this video. I'm going to end up with a clip, of course, of a close-up of those fish. And as always, if you like this style of video, please like and or subscribe and leave lots of comments. Let me know what you think. And we'll continue this experiment for quite some time, I think. So here, we're going to get on to this last bit here. This again is the soil tank in the experiment, and I have 1 female guppy that's having some tail rot, and I'm having 1 female guppy that has having some sort of digestive issues and seems to be having a bit of trouble either going or something. I'm going to have some stills coming up with it shortly, and you'll get to see it a little bit closer, and I'll have a couple arrows pointing at it. But because it is, you know, 2 individual fish, and each having different symptoms. I'm not going to worry about it too much at the moment. I'm going to continue with the normal regimes for this. I suspect this is all because of the tannins, and the tannins will gradually diminish, and we'll see how that goes. If it gets worse, I will have to do something about it. But there is a female that's having the digestive problems. You can see that little bulb at the end there, and then of course this is obviously the one with the fin rot. So we will see how this pans out by next week. Thanks again for watching. I will see you in the next video, and bye for now.